A father's not supposed to have favorites among his children, but Eleanor. I used to say to Jenny, you know, Eleanor's a strange child. Jenny would always respond, what? You expect the children of Karl Marx to be normal? Ella was the youngest, but the brightest. Imagine, a revolutionary at age 8. That's how old she was in 1863. Poland was in rebellion against Russian rule, and Tussie wrote a letter. That's what we called her, Tussie. She wrote a letter to Engels about those brave little fellows in Poland. Yeah, that's what she called them. At age 9, she wrote a letter to America, advice to President Lincoln, telling him how to win the war against the Confederacy. Also, she smoked and drank wine. But she was still a child. She would sit and dress her dolls while sipping a glass of wine. She played me in chess, and when she was 10, I could not easily defeat her. At 15, she suddenly became furious against the law about observing the Lord's Day. No activity on Sunday was permitted. So she organized the Sunday evenings for the people at St. Martin's Hall, brought musicians there to play Handel and Mozart and Beethoven. The hall was packed, 2,000 people. Yeah, it was illegal, but no one was arrested. A lesson, if you're going to break the law, do it with 2,000 people and Mozart. I used to read Shakespeare and Aeschylus and Dante aloud to she and her sisters. Eleanor loved it. Her room was like a Shakespeare museum. She memorized Romeo and Juliet and insisted that I read over and over those lines of Romeo when he sees Juliet for the first time. The brightness of her cheeks would shame those stars as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through that airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. Tussie was not easy to live with. Oh no. Do you know how embarrassing it is to have a child that finds flaws with your reasoning? She would argue with me about my writings. For instance, my essay on the Jewish question, not easy to understand, I admit. Well, Eleanor read it and immediately challenged me. Why do you single out the Jews as the representatives of capitalism? They're not the only ones that are poisoned by commerce and greed. Well, I tried to explain to her that I wasn't singling out the Jews, just using them as a vivid example. Her answer was to start wearing a Jewish star. I am a Jew, she announced. What could I say? I just shrugged my shoulders. That's a very Jewish gesture, Eleanor said. She could be very annoying. Tussie knew that my father had converted to Christianity. I mean, it wasn't practical to be a Jew in Germany. Is it ever practical to be a Jew anywhere? He had me baptized at age 8, and this fact intrigued Eleanor. She said, Moore, that's what my family called me, Moore, I know you were baptized, but you were first circumcised, weren't you? Oh, God, nothing embarrassed that girl. At times like these, she could be impossible. Listen to this. Next to her Jewish star, she wore a crucifix. No, she was not enamored with Christianity, but with the Irish and their rebellion against England. Tussie learned of the Irish struggles from Lizzie Burns, Engels' love. Lizzie was a mill girl who couldn't read. Engels spoke 9 languages. You might think that this would make it hard for them to communicate, but they loved one another. Lizzie was active in the Irish movement. Tussie would visit her, and the two of them would sit on the floor and drink wine together and sing Irish songs until they fell asleep. And there was that terrible night. The night the English government hung 2 young Irishmen right there in Soho with a drunken crowd cheering. Yeah, the genteel English with their afternoon tea and their public hangings. Well, I understand you don't hang people anymore. You just gas them or inject poison into their veins or use electricity to burn them to death. Yeah, much more civilized. Yeah, the English government hung two young Irishmen who wanted nothing but freedom. Eleanor wept and wept. I would say to her, Tussie, you do not need to get involved so soon in the horrors of the world. You're just 15. That's just the point, Moore. I'm not 13, I'm not 14. I am 15. Yeah, she was 15, and she became infatuated with every handsome, dashing man that came to our flat. I could draw a list. For the rest of her life, she was creative in politics and idiotic in love. She was enamored with the hero of the Paris Commune, Lissagre. Well, at least he was a Frenchman. Jennison's fellow was English. And English men are like English food. Need I say more? And then Lafarge, Laura's lover. His public displays of ardor were absurd. He would put his hand on her ass in public as if it was the most natural thing. Jenny defended him. She said, oh, well, it's his Creole background. You know his family moved to Paris from Cuba? As if in Cuba everyone went around with their hand on somebody's ass.